Hello and welcome to Overgrown TV, also known as Dunedin Cannabis Club. We are live from Whakamana Studios this evening.
Thanks for joining us for another week. Plenty to get through on tonight's show. We're going to be talking about a case which was very high profile last year, the case of Kelly Van Galen. Finally, the suppression orders have been lifted around that case, so we'll be talking about the outcome there and also featuring a video about industrial hemp, a recent hemp harvest in the South Island, showing you how hemp can be harvested both by hand and machinery. We're also going to feature an interview with filmmaker, documentary maker Eric Rice from Drug Lord. He is in Uruguay where he is producing the second of the Drug Lord series, and he's also been accepted into a US film festival. So cheers for tuning in again to Overgrown TV.
Okay, we're just Skyping Arik now. Give us a moment.
And how are you, George? Cheers for coming on the show.
Yeah, kia ora, Julian and everyone. I'm filling some big shows, so a little bit nervous, in Gio's absence. So, I'm trying to do my best.
So we're streaming live on the internet, so we do this every week, or that's the plan. Overgrown TV is the new branding.
Hello, can you hear us, Arik? Can you hear me and Julian talking?
Hello, how are you, Eric?
Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Looks like we're just having some technical difficulties with
our
mic.
Hello.
We hear you. We hear you.
Maybe like the
You
Skype
obviously
tools
can't see
menu.
anything,
Where is it? Preferences.
Just bear with us while we iron out these technical difficulties with the Skype.
Okay.
Hello, are you there, Eric?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had a few technical difficulties. We've got you now.
Okay.
Cheers for joining us on the show, Eric.
Thanks for having me. I'm just going to close the door behind me because there's a bunch of sleeping people in the next room. Hang on a second.
Yeah, you might need to move over a bit.
So Arik is Skyping us now live from Uruguay. There's a lot of people back here home in New Zealand, big fans of your film Drug Lord. You're now in production of Drug Lord 2 in Uruguay, and we're really, really honored to have you joining us live.
Thanks for having me, Ed. Thanks for having me, Julian. Yeah, I'm in Uruguay at the moment. I'm in Montevideo, and it's 5:30 in the morning here, so I had to sequester myself in the kitchen of the backpackers where I'm staying so that I don't wake everybody else up. Uruguay is quite an amazing country. 3 million people here, and it's legal for every single one of them to smoke weed, to grow weed. They can join clubs where there are 45 members. Clubs can have up to 99 plants. I've seen amazing grow operations that would blow your mind at many of these clubs. You can grow as many plants as you like for personal use, as long as you only have 6 with flowers at any one time. So that's kind of a restriction that you need to get around. I've seen very proficient grow operations with only 6 flowering plants that would be producing several pounds of weed every few months. So I think the regulations that they've implemented here are very effective.
That sounds really good. It's amazing what you can do with one plant if you grow it really big, and They must be coming up to harvest
Correct.
season in Uruguay. Are they expecting a lot of weed soon?
The wheat has already arrived and is very plentiful. It's of a much higher quality now than it was when I first arrived in the country. A few months ago, most of the weed that was being smoked here was compressed Paraguayan shite of a very low quality, some of it malty. And now everybody is buying the harvest that they've grown themselves. Most of the homegrown stuff is out on the streets now, and the price dropped to $7 a gram
Now,
over the last couple of months.
when we spoke to you last, Ark, on Overgrown Radio Show, you kind of were lamenting that the much touted regulations hadn't really kicked in yet, but you did say that as soon as harvest came, that the situation was going to be a lot better. It sounds like you're saying they're experiencing that now, but we have heard that the actual implementation of Mujica's intended regulations, now that he's no longer the head of state, have kind of been indefinitely postponed. What's the latest with what's actually happening as far as the government is concerned, and then what is the reality like on the ground now that harvest time has finally come?
Well, I've actually been to the office of the National Board of Drug Control yesterday to try and get some direct information about this. And they were quite secretive, actually. It was kind of strange. It was very mysterious. I've emailed them, they emailed me back once, but didn't clarify when I could actually see them. And then I waited for just over a week before I decided to go directly to their office and speak to them face to face. But I was kind of stonewalled, and they gave me an email address. They told me to email and set up an appointment, which I'd already done. So I just emailed again yesterday to see if I can get some FaceTime with one of their representatives. I've also emailed the two companies that have won the contracts to grow the required 16 tons of weed per annum to supply the pharmacies here. And neither of these companies gave me any definitive time to meet with any of their representatives. So I think we're on South American time here, and I think they're lagging behind their own goals of supplying pharmacies, and they don't really want to talk to the press because they're a bit embarrassed to say that. However, as I said, the clubs are moving full steam ahead. The auto cultivation is moving full steam ahead. You can see people growing weed on the rooftops all over Uruguay, in the cities at least. On the rooftops, that seems to be a popular option. And in the front yards in the smaller towns, you see massive plants, or until they were harvested just a few weeks ago, you could see 12-foot plants growing over the tops of people's garden walls. So, there are things that are positive and are moving ahead, and there are things that are lagging behind. But as I said, this is South America, and we're on mañana time.
Wow, well, so it sounds like as far as new immigrants, expatriates, tourists who have come to make the most of what they've read about Uruguay overseas, that's now kind of coming true. Whereas if they had been there previously and this Paraguayo that we've heard so much about doesn't sound so appealing.
Yes. There are some tourists here expecting that kind of thing, and they are now receiving it. The locals are still waiting with bated breath for the fabled first sale in a pharmacy. The pharmacies are resistant because they believe that it's not their role in society to be supplying recreational drugs. They believe the traditional role of a pharmacy is to supply drugs for medical use. So they were sitting on the fence. I was thinking that the pharmacies would jump at the opportunity to make a lot of money selling weed, but the pharmacies will have their prices restricted by the government. So they'll be selling the weed for $2 an hour, for $2 a gram, which sounds wonderful for the consumer, but it's not that wonderful for the retailer because there's no markup there. The problem with $2 a gram weed is that for the growers and the retailers, they face the problem of not being able to make much money on supplying and distributing and supplying it. So that I think is the main holdup, that the goal of selling weed at a price that would severely undercut the black market means that it's no longer a profitable industry, and I think that's what's holding back the suppliers.
And I hear your first film, Drug Lord, was accepted into a film festival in the US recently. How's that been going?
Yes, it will be premiering in the US this month at the Cannabis Film Festival in Garberville, California, and it's highly touted. I've been reading the blogs from the US coming through that say, we're looking forward to this film. Some people have already seen it because it's available for download online, so it's not the first time in the US that anybody has seen the film. However, it will be the first time on the big screen, so we're very excited about that.
And how's production going for Drug Lord 2? I mean, have you made any progress with trying to meet Mujika?
I went to his house about 4 days ago just to scope it out, hoping to see him, but unfortunately he's in Japan doing a trade show right now on behalf of the Uruguayan government with his wife, who's also a senator, Maria Topolansky. She and he are both in Japan right now, and they will be returning in about 6 days, so I'm going to wait about another week, and then I'm going to go out there on my bicycle again. It's about 20 kilometers from here. He lives on a small ranch with a 3-legged dog. It's a flower farm. I believe that's the product they're producing there. It's behind an asparagus farm in a very small little village just outside of Montevideo, what they call a barrio, a neighborhood. I spoke with the security guard who guards his house, and he and his wife. And the security guard was really friendly and said that he was coming back and that he generally speaks to people who wait outside to talk to members of the press. So it's looking good to meet Mujika in about a week.
Wow, that is really great. And, all of the things that you've set out to do with the first movie and now the second movie, and all of the people that backed you because they knew you could do it, it's all really coming together. What's your plan? How much longer are you going to be in Uruguay? What do you make of the most recent developments here in New Zealand? Will you be traveling to film some subjects in the United States? And will you be returning with your legally allocated 1 month supply of lawfully supplied medical marijuana when you return to New Zealand?
I would love to test the waters. Unfortunately, I can't get a prescription here to do that, and I won't be going to the States where I could potentially get a prescription. So the segment that will be in the United States will not be filmed for the foreseeable future. It will be filmed for Drug Lord 3, because I think that's in the offing now, just to expand the story and complete it. So I won't be returning with my weed for consumption in New Zealand. Although that was a fascinating loophole that was discovered recently by Rebecca Ryder, and I have communicated with Rebecca Ryder and will film her and put that in the sequel. So we will be covering that story. But regarding other developments in New Zealand, it's interesting to see Peter Stuyvesant Dunhill, as I call him, shifting the goalposts and shifting his own position to try and avoid painting himself into a corner any more than he already has. There's a lot of bloggers who say, yes, this is a sign of victory that Peter Dunn is jumping ship, but I don't believe he is. I think that he should be tarred and feathered for all that he's doing to hold back cannabis law reform in New Zealand and making these small adjustments to his game. To me, I think that it's just part of the connivery that he's been practicing for the last 15 years. We should distrust this man. We should question every one of his adjustments as mere surface level moves, because as I said, fundamentally he is a prohibitionist. He has obfuscated the subject at every turn, and we do not need him as the gatekeeper to medicinal cannabis. He will consolidate.
Yeah, I think he's got lots of support from the other politicians. I think it's not just him alone.
Yeah, well,
Something bizarre is going on, like governmentally, and I think that needs to be,
The National Party.
sorted out. I don't think it's just about Peter Dunn.
Well, it's interesting that Peter Dunn has, changed his rhetoric, and a lot of the bloggers, as you say, Arik, have bought into this. A lot of the media commentators, there's been numerous editorials praising Peter Dunn as such a forward thinker and, such a brave individual, when really he's totally disingenuous, and he could have done a lot bolder, braver moves a lot earlier if he really wanted to. And he's just stalling. He's trying to take the wind out of the sails of people like Rebecca Ryder, like Helen Kelly, the real emerging leaders in this field.
Yeah, and
That's right. And
you just have to look at his history, yeah.
correct. And his support for Tony Mattich, who's been confirmed as a fraudster, I think that was also a very calculated move to undermine the cannabis movement.
Indeed.
By either co-opting her into supporting whatever his newest agenda is, or in the event that she blows up and is revealed to be a fraudster, then it casts a very negative light on the rest of the cannabis movement.
Yes, he's got his best laid plans, old Peter, and this is all part of it, continuing to dodge. But it's really great that, your documentary Drug Lord exists because it exposes Peter Dunn's skullduggery from the beginning and his real integral role in this issue. And I think, a lot of what he's been doing in terms of changing his image has been reacting to that because history is going to remember him as the villain that he is, and we have the documentary to prove it. When do you think we can see you back in New Zealand?
I'll be coming back in just under 3 months by way of Argentina. I might do some filming in Argentina as well, which will bring the total number of countries that the production has visited to 8, which makes it the largest scale documentary production in the history of New Zealand film. And I'm still waiting for a single review from a mainstream New Zealand media person. I've sent out over 20 copies of DVD, and I have been ignored 20 times. So it's interesting to see what kind of hills you have to climb to get some recognition in New Zealand.
I believe the only media that covered it was Radio Live's Sunday Social when you were in the documentary Edge.
The only mainstream media outlet was to cover Drug Lord was Radio Live. And as I said, they only took an interest because it was in the documentary Edge Festival. So since then, aside from New Zealand bloggers, there's been absolutely no mention of the film. And despite that, it is the #1 selling DVD in New Zealand right now.
What?
So imagine...
Tell us about that. Tell us about...
Sure, the first 500 copies that I burned, that was the first DVD run, was 500 copies. They are all sold. And I doubt very much there's another production in New Zealand that has moved 500 DVDs in 1 year. In fact, it's highly unlikely. The only popular film right now in New Zealand is Hunt for the Wilder People. I don't believe it is available at all on DVD yet. So that means Drug Lord is the #1 DVD right now in New Zealand.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it's great that you're going on to film the sequel. I mean, when do you think that's going to be released?
Hopefully April 20th, 2017. That's the target.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Arik. Is there anything else you want to say about the situation in Uruguay or, people in New Zealand looking to Uruguay as a country that has legalized?
Well, everywhere I go in the streets, you can smell people enjoying cannabis. You get a whiff of it when the wind changes direction. you turn around and there's somebody across the street having a joint. I've seen people smoking weed outside a bank. You see when you're walking down the beautiful River Plate, just a couple of blocks from where I am now, which happens to be the widest river in the world. There are always people enjoying weed while they, watch the sun go down over the river. It's basically as accepted here as consuming alcohol, maybe slightly less so, but the point being that it's legal, it's not frowned upon, it's not looked down on. You can walk into a police station with an ounce of weed in your pocket and not feel any fear at all, because if the police happen to see it, they'll just go, oh, so what, it's legal. And that's how it should be in New Zealand. There shouldn't be any legal sanctions against somebody for having possession of some dried flowers or for growing some flowers. What New Zealand needs to do is move past its very nebulous past, get to the stage where they have a similar implementation of regulations in New Zealand as they do here, and that's what I'm going to advocate for when I get back, just an adoption of the Uruguayan system. I know you guys are moving forward with a referendum, and I'd be interested to know what your propositions are, because I think what we could conceivably get past, move ahead with, is just saying, okay, let's adopt the Uruguayan regulatory structure. That will, I think, get a lot of support because it's already been implemented in another country, and so maybe that's the way forward, just to say, okay, 6 plants, 99 plants if you belong to a club, and in the future, sales by a retail franchise such as pharmacies or a new set of dispensaries. I think that's what Uruguay needs. It needs dispensaries, not pharmacies. The pharmacies don't really want to be involved, and it creates potential for a new industry. So I think that's what New Zealand should be doing, adopting a similar regulatory structure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Arik, all the way from Uruguay, and we will look forward to speaking to you again soon. Keep fighting the good fight, and we can't wait to see the movie, and say g'day to Muchika from all of us. I know he probably doesn't smoke, but if he does, you should totally blaze one with him.
I will, thanks, Dave.
I'm sure Gio would have sent his regards about now, so from George.
Cheers for joining us, Arik. That was really interesting.
Cheers.
Great, thank you.
That was, of course, Arik Rice from Drug Lord. Looking forward to that second documentary film coming out of Uruguay, where it's now legal and there's plenty of weed around.
Well, and we hope that, you, the viewer, are taking the opportunity to blaze a fat one. And, unjust laws, it's our duty to disobey them. So, cannabis prohibition, totally unjust. Therefore, smoking cannabis as a deliberate political act to defy that law is civil disobedience, an act of protest. Something that's sacred in Western democracies and enshrined in our Bill of Rights. So when we smoke here, live on air, we're doing an act of civil disobedience protest, and we encourage you, the viewer, to also engage in these acts and smoke up with us. Blaze along with your buddies here on Overgrown TV, live from Whakamana, thanks to the Dunedin Cannabis Club.
Yeah, and of course you can check out the Cannabis Museum if you're ever in Dunedin, New Zealand. We're here at 66 David Street in Caversham, and it's just a great place to find out more about cannabis legalisation. You can see a lot of memorabilia like the old rolling papers, the old t-shirts, and the exhibits. The exhibit about the darknet markets, how to access the darknet, and how you can purchase cannabis off the internet using bitcoins. So it's so educational all round.
It really is, and it's getting a lot of traffic. The Airbnb is very popular. Book your spot now if you'd like to stay in our special guest room a night at the museum, in the really true sense. And join the van loads of tourists, domestic and international, freedom campers, busloads of Chinese, and see what everyone's seeing, what everyone's raving about. The newest, hottest Dunedin tourist attraction, New Zealand's only cannabis tourism attraction.
Yeah, and there's going to be a new exhibit soon at the museum, I hear, and this sounds interesting. An exhibit looking at grow closets.
Yeah, that's right. Growing cannabis plants. What are the ways that people do it? How do they conceal it because of prohibition? This is a cultural phenomenon. It deserves to be recorded and expounded. And, we can use the anatomy of the hemp plant, which is fully legal, to demonstrate all of the, botanical aspects of cannabis because, of course, the hemp plant is exactly the same as the cannabis plant, except for lacking one obscure biochemical, tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC.
That's right. And of course, we were lucky enough to be involved with a hemp grow and a hemp harvest that took place recently, and we're going to take a look at a bit of a harvest, what it's like to harvest an actual hemp field.
There you go.
Get it done.
Is it after that? No, this is the job though. Yeah. And I want to get as much as we can because, see, to me, every time I pull something out the ground, I see dollars.
Wow.
Dollar bills, y'all. What, Betty?